We'll be starting off with our air brake and in-cab inspection. We're gonna make sure our ignition is on. Start off with the 6 items. Make sure my seatbelt's not ripped or torn. Buckles and unbuckles properly. Make sure my shifter's in neutral. My parking brake and emergency brake not cracked, broken, and missing, completely pulled out. My steering wheel, make sure it's not cracked, broken, missing any components, no more than 2 inches of play. My clutch, make sure it has no more than 2 inches of play while tapping on it. My air gauge should be reading below 80 psi. In this case, it is not, so we're going to fan the brakes. Alright, now we'll safe start the vehicle. Make sure it's in neutral. Clutch in. Alright, we're going to be releasing the clutch slowly. Okay? So for the first test, it's going to be our cutout test. Our cutout test is when the governor tells our air compressor when to turn off. Anything over 140 psi is not a good test. Alright, so we're going to hold our RPM between 12 and 1500 RPMs. Alright, so my needle stabilized at 120 psi, making this a good test because I did not go over 140. Alright, so for our second test, we're going to be doing our cut-in. Our cut-in is when the governor tells our compressor when to turn on. Anything under 100 psi is not a good test. So, for this test, you're going to be applying the brakes all the way down. You're going to release, and you're going to count 15 seconds. Alright, so our cut-in happened at 105 psi, making it a good test because it did not go below 100. Now you will build max pressure. Once again, we're going to hold it between 12 and 15 until we max out. Okay, now we're going to secure our vehicle. We're going to clutch in, low gear. Turn our vehicle off, turn it back on, release our clutch slowly. So we're going to press in our knobs, making sure they're both completely pressed in. Alright, so the next test we're going to be doing is our apply leakage. Our apply leakage, we're going to make sure we don't lose no more than 4 psi in 60 seconds. We're going to apply our service brake all the way down. We're going to state where our needle stabilized. My needle stabilized at 95 psi. My time starts now. Alright, 30 seconds that have gone by, I'll be listening for any air leaks. Alright, our 60 seconds are up. Our needle is still stabilized at 95 psi, making this a good test because I did not lose no more than 4 psi in 60 seconds. Then we'll release our service brakes. Alright, moving on, we're going to go to our low pressure warning device. Our low pressure warning device should happen anywhere in the ranges between 55 and 75 psi. For this test, you're going to be fanning the brakes. Alright, so my lead alarm activated at 60 psi, making this a good test because it fell within the ranges of 55 to 75 psi. Alright, moving on to our next test is going to be our spring pop out. Our spring pop out should happen anywhere between the ranges of 20 and 45 psi. We're going to repeat the process of fanning our brakes. Alright, so our spring pop-out happened at 25 psi, making this a good test because it fell within the ranges of 20 and 45. Alright, so now we're going to safe start the vehicle, clutch in, make sure it's in neutral, turn our vehicle on. We're going to be releasing the clutch slowly. We're going to build max pressure once again. Alright, so moving on, now we're going to be testing our brakes. We're going to test in this order. It's going to be our parking, our emergency, trailer, and service. Alright, we're going to be starting off with our parking. So we're going to secure the vehicle, clutch in, put in the low gear. Alright, we're going to disengage our emergency. I'll be releasing the clutch slowly until I feel a slight tug. Alright, my truck and trailer did not move, making this a good test. We'll pull up our emergency, push in our parking, and we're going to test our emergency. I'll repeat the process. Alright, our truck and trailer did not move, making this a good test. Now we're going to test our trailer. We're going to push our trailer brake down first, then disengage our emergency. Alright, we're going to repeat the process. Release the clutch slowly. Alright, our truck and trailer did not move, making this a good test. Now we're going to be going to our service brake. We're going to apply the service brake first. Release the trailer. For this test, I will move no more than 5 miles an hour. There's a truck in front of me. So we're going to move no more than 5 feet, hovering over the steering wheel. We're going to repeat the process. Let go of the clutch slowly, move no more than 5 feet. Make sure our steering wheel does not move to the left or to the right. Alright, my service brakes are working properly. My steering wheel did not move to the left or the right, meaning my brakes are well balanced. Okay, let's put our vehicle in neutral. Clutch slowly. Engage our brakes. Now we're going to be moving on to our in-cab inspection. We're going to be